going out there? This is Wayne, and we're checking out SawZall blades, or reciprocating saw blades. These are very powerful tool, and again, similar to drill bits and some of the other things at the hardware store. It's very hard to decipher what kind of drill bit you need for what application. Do you need demo bits that are going to go through wood, but you've got some nails? Are you going to be cutting thick steel? Some other things, stainless steel, hardened steel. There's just so many different things that you need to consider when you go to buy a SawZall blade. So this is going to be a video. We're going to get the best of the best blades, and we're going to pit them all against each other. This stuff you can find at your big box store for the most part. Everything here was bought at a big box store. Nothing was special ordered. So this is stuff you're going to be able to find and actually get a hold of. You've just got so many different options here. If we come here, you got Rigid's got a wood blade, Milwaukee's got the axe blade. Then you start to get into your bimetal blades, Diablo, Lenox. And then, you start to get into different grits and different cutting abrasives. This is Carbide, this is Carbide, this is Diamond, and this is Diamond. And then over here, we got some new stuff coming out. This is the first time I've seen these. This is the Carbide Infused blade. So this is kind of an interesting aspect. Basically, Carbide cuts just about anything. It's one of the hardest materials known to man, other than diamond. The only problem with diamond is it's super expensive, and it just cuts really slow. And if you're trying to cut metal or something, the bonding agent, whatever you bond to it, usually gives out before the diamond does. So, what cutting blade do we need for the best all-purpose blade? What's the best wood blade? What's the best wood and nails blade? Where do the bimetal blades stop cutting? Because these do cut just about anything as far as mild steel. But as soon as you start getting into hardened steel, you're going to start running into some issues. So, just like we did with the Ultimate Guide to Drill Bits, this is going to be the Ultimate Guide to SawZall blades. We always got to come back to the Rockwell hardness scale rating. Why? Because we need to know what the hardness of the material is that we're cutting, and we need to know what the hardness is of the blade. Just like with drill bits, you have to have one subject that is harder than the other. The cutting agent has to be significantly harder on the Rockwell hardness scale than the subject that you're cutting. Once we break it down scientifically like this, then the answer is obvious. The only thing that's in question is how are these blades going to hold up. Carbide sounds great, and this is a great tool, and I really like what they're doing with some of their hole saws and some of the other things that they're coming out with. But how does it hold up? The harder we go, the harder the steel we go, and the harder you go with Carbide, is it going to chip? Because as soon as you get to Carbide, it's extremely fragile and difficult to deal with. That's why building these type of blades is so difficult to do. So we're going to get a bunch of different stuff. We're going to get mild steel. We got mild steel here, a couple other things. Then we're going to have leaf spring steel. I'll grab a leaf spring. Tool steel. This would be your average tool steel, something like this chisel, and maybe a wrench, something like that. And then wood chisels. Wood chisels are extremely hard. These are really hard. These are going to be up in the 62 range. As soon as we get out of the 40s and get up into the 50s and 60s, that's when these bimetal blades are going to stop cutting. They're going to stop working. They're just not going to. As soon as you jump up into the 40s, they're not going to work anymore. So the only thing that's going to cut those is this is Carbide, or even possibly Diamond. But I'm really interested to see how see, both of these are Carbide, but this is like a grit. It's like a Carbide fragments that are infused and impregnated into the steel. And this one is little teeny tiny. It's like a saw blade on a circular saw. It's little teeny tiny chunks of Carbide that they've somehow fused to that. So as long as the Carbide stays attached, and doesn't chip, I predict very good things for this. This one here is going to be kind of the same thing. It's a carbide strip. It looks like this one has little carbide teeth individually welded on there or bonded on there. This one looks like an entire strip. If you look at it real close from this side, you can see that strip, and somehow they've managed to bond that up here. So this being one solid piece and having a smaller TPI or tooth per inch rating, I'm interested to see how this stuff all really works. I've got high hopes for the Carbide. That's all I can say. I haven't tried them out yet. This is all brand new. I actually just heard about them a couple weeks ago. So then we're going to get into stainless steel. You got stainless steel, Maxim knife, cut on. And then finally, the hardest thing that we're going to be cutting today is this Cobalt Bit. This is a drill bit from TTP, harddrills.com. And basically the reason I'm using this drill bit is because it's the only one that actually has a certified rating of 66 Rockwell hardness scale testing. They actually sent the drill bits off. These were some of my favorite regular drill bits to use for regular to mild steel, and even stainless steel and some hardened alloys. These are great, but this is the only one that actually has a physical rating, so this is the only one we could test it on. So we'll actually try and cut this thing. Diamond and Carbide is the only thing that has a chance with this, I think. So we got a file. We're going to cut lots of stuff. And we're going to put some myths to rest, and we'll cut some plain wood too, because the demo guys out there that are just doing demolition, you really need a saw that's going to cut wood quickly. These bimetal blades will certainly cut through the nails in the steel, but it's going to take forever. The guys that are going to be doing demolition and cutting wood and tearing down houses and tearing down houses and framework are going to want this. And the only difference between this Milwaukee blade and a regular blade over here, and these have just kind of been, some of these are pretty old and they've just been sitting in a bag and they've got some moisture on them, so they're a little rusty, but they're all brand new. The axe has these little fang tips, and so they're claiming that will help out in tooth breakage, which if you look at it, it actually should, because the end of this tooth becomes so fine, that little backup bit right there kind of really helps that out. So we've got all this stuff. I've even got some tile. Real stone floor tile, super hard stuff. So we're going to put every single one of these in their place, and you will know exactly what you need to buy at the end of this for your project. So stay with me and we'll get started. Alright, now for the fun stuff. This is the new Carbide cutting edge carbide tipped blade from Diablo. We've seen it cut wood and nails in wood, and now let's just see what it does with this 3/4 inch steel. So that did pretty well. Let's take a look at this here. And I don't see any damage to any of the teeth anywhere, no chipping yet. And it seemed to cut through it pretty good. That felt really good and solid. Seemed like it cut through a little bit faster than the bimetal blades, actually. So we'll try the next one. Since we're starting to get to a little thicker piece of steel, I'm going to go ahead and switch this around so we can keep everything fair and even. Now again, we're going to be doing tool steel, high-grade tool steel. We already cut this softer steel with the blade already, 3/4 inch right here. This is going to be your higher grade tool steel, 54 to 58 Rockwell hardness scale. So far, these have cut this steel, but they are pretty much trash by the time they're done because the teeth are just about filed off of there. so that definitely cut it the fastest by far. I'm starting to look for any damage, and we can see, let's see if I can get something to look at and poke with here. We can begin to see a chip and a fairly significant chip off of that right there and there. So now as we start moving into these harder alloys, we're going to really start seeing these things take abuse, and that's what I was afraid of with the carbide, is it actually chipping out of there. But at what point it fails, we don't know. But that definitely cut that hard steel faster than anything else, by far. And here we go again, our Diablo carbide tipped metal cutting. So it's extra thick, extra heavy duty, 54 to 62 on the Rockwell hardness scale. Let's see if it does it without chipping any teeth. That's what's going to be the main factor now, is if the teeth chip. Wow, that is impressive. That is really, really cool. This stuff, you can see how it just absolutely destroyed all these other blades. I mean, just made a mess out of them. Where's my Leatherman here? My Gerber tool. Let's see. And we're beginning to see some teeth starting to fail. So the carbide's getting jerked out of these. I would assume these two here do not have any carbide left on them. But look at all the stuff we cut. I mean, this is still the same blade that we cut. Wood with nails, 3/4 inch steel, our tool, chrome vandalum, wrench, cut through that, and just now it's starting to break down. So that's pretty impressive to me. We'll keep going with this thing to see what it can really do here. Okay, so we got a file here. I just want to see if this thing can do anything. That was really cool. We're able to use the outer teeth here. I mean, this blade is completely trashed now. You can see it's blue. And most all the carbide has been broken and chipped off of there. But it did cut it. I mean, this is a super hard piece of steel. This is a piece of steel that's designed to file, regular steel. So I don't know exactly what it would be on the Rockwell hardness scale rating. It'd probably be at the higher end of a tool steel. So I'm guessing it would be in that 58, maybe even pushing 60 range for the Rockwell hardness scale test. But that's pretty cool. That's a bad blade. That's a bad blade to cut through that. This stuff would just be completely toast and trashed long ago. I mean, this blade is trash, but it did cut through before it got trashed. Not to mention, this is the blade that we've been using the entire time. We've cut steel, mild steel, hard steel. We've been cutting wrenches, 3/4 inch steel, square, solid, drill bits, all kinds of stuff. So I'm super, super impressed with these. Even though this one is gone now, it sure has done a whole lot before we were actually able to destroy it. Okay, so we're going to do some spring steel. Common leaf spring steel is going to be in that 58 to 62 Rockwell hardness scale rating. We did get a new blade for this one, and I'm actually going to put some lubrication on here because we've already seen that it'll cut. These things will cut just about anything. I just kind of want to try it how I would do it with a little bit of lubrication, and actually see if we can get this to last quite a bit longer here and not just completely get smoked. So what I want to do is put some of this cut it paste on here and smear it around, and then I'll have some of that to continue to put on it as we go forward. This, try and get some of this up in here. Get it back on the blade itself. It's kind of hot for it to stick, but that is what is nice about this stuff, is it does kind of stick to it to some degree. Okay, so very cool stuff. It's a little hard to tell if we had some chipping just because of the lubrication we put on there. It's kind of gumming things up to see, but it looks like one, two, three, no, just one, two. It looks like we had 2 teeth chip cutting through this leaf spring steel. That's great. I mean, any of these other, regular steel blades are just going to completely get toasted doing something like that. Just do a quick little comparison here. Dump that out. Like if you just get one of these regular old run-of-the-mill blades here, and this is the exact same blade as these thicker ones, it's just thinner, that's all. We can dip this in some glue as well. All the teeth are gone. Gone, gone, gone. So, and you get that far. The other one cut all the way through right away. So that's the difference. It wouldn't have made any difference if it was a thicker. All it is extra steel up here. There's absolutely no difference when it just it makes it so you don't jam the blade as much. That's about all. Alright, just for the sake of not wasting blades here, hopefully this little guy will cut through that. Looks like it should. But this is going to be our small, teeny tiny, but it's going to be the Diablo carbide cutting edge blade. definitely will cut it. And it looks like most of our carbide is still intact as well. Alright, so now we've got our carbide tipped blade on here. And this is, you know, cutting cast iron in the utmost of ideal conditions, to be perfectly honest. You know, normally you're not going to have a lubricant like this, or, you know, whoever's using it probably isn't going to be taking the time to do so. Stay in there. So you can see that just burned through that a whole lot faster. Way faster. And you know, this is that same blade we were using before, and there's a broken tooth or two, but it's going to at least get you through, and it's going to get you through way faster than just your regular bimetal blades. Alright, so after doing all this testing, we really get to see what blades work on what and why. And you know, usually the brand doesn't really matter. There's you know, Diablo, Milwaukee, Lenox, they're all putting out a pretty good quality product for the most part. The only one that seemed to have the most advantages, clearly an advantage, are the Milwaukee Axe, simply because of this tooth design. You can see it clearly beat. I mean, we beat the crap out of this stuff, cutting metal and stone and all the stuff that it's not designed to do, on purpose to see how it holds up. And you can see that it definitely, this thin hook tooth design is far not as good as the Milwaukee design here. So that was a distinct advantage. Most of these bimetal blades, I mean, if you have a Lenox and you have a Diablo or the Torch from Milwaukee, that's going to be, you're going to get roughly the same. I mean, it's not going to be a huge significant amount of difference like we saw with this one here. Biggest thing to remember is if you need thin cutting, you're going to cut like maybe circles or something like that in wood or drywall. Your thinner blades are better. But these thicker blades disperse the heat more on these bimetal blades. So they're going to last longer, and they're also not going to jam and buck and bend nearly as bad as these thinner blades. We could see that pretty obvious with like this one right here. If this was a nice thick blade like these, it would have held up a little bit better. What was interesting to see was where the diamond shined and where the carbide abrasive shined. They cut, but they take a long time to do it. So it is nice to be able to, I would say it would be a good idea to have some of these in your toolkit. And the diamond took longer as well, but it was the only one to cut the actual hardest thing, which was the drill bit at a 66 Rockwell hardness scale. That was the only thing that actually managed to cut that and cut it cleaner than anything else. When is that going to be an application for you? I don't know why you need to cut a drill bit in half or some steel that hard, but at least we know it does it. The new players in the game are the carbide tipped, and that's where I got to really see what happens here when I wanted to see what carbide did versus carbide, because these are both carbide, but this is a carbide tooth and this is a carbide grit. The carbide grit was obviously very slow, and I was super impressed by these blades. The only problem seemed to be that the carbide would break. That's carbide's only issue, is that it's extremely strong, extremely durable, super, super hard material. Its downfall is that it's brittle. It deals with the heat better than anything else. Any other kind of steel deals with the heat great. The heat doesn't really affect it and break it down like it does these bimetal blades. However, getting it on a product and getting it to where we can use it properly seems to be the issue. These blades would last longer because the carbide is a grit than these, and that seemed to be the main problem, is that the carbide would just shatter and shear off of there. And then of course this one right here, you know, this thing did really well right up until, because this one is a solid strip, and these have individual pieces of carbide brazed onto each tooth. When this flexes, it doesn't affect the cutting edge. However, when this one flexed, when it got hot, you can see it got hot right here, then the metal backing it flexed. And when it flexed, because it's one solid piece of carbide with little teeth in it instead of the individual chunks, that's when this blade broke down and failed. So when you see this one at the store, keep that in mind. This blade will cut, but if you get any kind of binding or flexing, it's not going to hold up, and then the entire blade is going to be destroyed and you're not going to have anything to cut with. So Diablo is the only one that I know of right now that actually is infusing the carbide into their blades. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, as of right now, I'm not buying any more bimetal blades whatsoever. At the end of the day, that's what's going to stay in my SawZall, and that's what's going to stay in my bag. They come in different sizes. You can get the little ones, this here, all the way up to the big 9-inch ones right here. But they just do everything. It's the best all-around SawZall blade that I could see. It's going to cut your cast iron. It's going to cut steel, mild. That was the other issue with the carbide grit, is that if you cut something softer like aluminum or even the mild steel, it begins to plug this up, and then it starts to generate heat, and then it's going to start breaking down the blade. That's not what you want to have happen. These were able to cut through that and not gum up, because there's a much larger space right here. Did the axe cut through wooded nails slightly faster? Yeah, it did. But you're going to have these and these if you want to use that. I can only see that these would be the best all-around blade for me, because they do everything well. I'm also going to keep some of these and the diamond ones just in case you get into something rough and maybe you break all the teeth off. At least you'll have something for backup. But if you have a diamond, if you got a carbide grit, and you got one of these carbide tooth blades, or a couple of them, you're gonna last a whole lot longer, and that should cut just about anything. I'm really not even gonna waste my money on bimetal blades anymore, simply because, unless I need to make a fine cut, I guess. But hopefully they'll go back to the drawing board on this one. That one did not seem to work out that well. And for what I saw today, as impressive as these were, you can bet that Milwaukee and Lenox are going to be coming out with something similar to this in the very near future. If I had any suggestions or if I could see anything done different, the way these started to break down was the carbide breaking off, and due to impact, because this is a very violent action. It's a very powerful machine, and it's a rough cut, gouge, I mean, rough and tumble, get it done type of thing. So if they could somehow combine the cutting power of the grit and put some grit, the carbide or even diamond grit, behind the carbide teeth in here, I don't know exactly how that would all work out, but if they could impregnate the steel with carbide up in here, then once the teeth failed and the carbide had failed in the teeth, you would still have something to back you up to get that job done and get it finished. That would combine the best of both worlds, where you're going to have that fast action cutting for the softer metals and wood, and you're going to have that super hard backup plan. So I think there's still some evolving that needs to go on with these, and hopefully between the other two companies we'll be able to see that. But as far as I can tell, right now the best blade at the store is this one right here. That's what's going in my bag, and until I see something better, that's where I'm going to stand. So I hope that helps you guys. I hope that helps you pick something at the hardware store, and opened your mind to some other things that you know, we didn't really try before or haven't seen before. And if you got one of these, you can cut just about anything. That's what we found out. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned. We're going to do lots more tool reviews. We're going to do something similar to this with hole saws coming up soon. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit the like button, share this with Facebook, G+, Twitter, all that kind of stuff, and help your buddies out and help them see what they need to see to pick what they need to pick at the hardware store. Thanks a lot.